Ready?
Yep. Stars in flight.
You've never played with a sparkler?
Nope.
Run!
You've got to run with me. Come on. Forever tonight.
I met a girl.
You met a girl?
On Goldbergs.
Forever tonight. I came to town to, I don't know, escape.
I had some emotional problems, and now I'm broke. My life is in total shambles.
Do you want to do shots? Tell me how you know, how you know, how you know. Tell me how you know.
Are you real?
You don't know everything about me.
Something's going on with this girl.
There's a reason I was drawn to you.
I'm in love.
Ah. I just watched my son piss in his own mouth.
Let's bring in, let me close out YouTube here. Let's bring in Steve Basilone. Steve, what's up, man?
Not much, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for taking the time. You're a busy guy.
Not this week.
Not this week.
So much of all of this kind of lifestyle is like very busy. And then just some weeks we're just fully just waiting for people to get back to you. So this week, the lion's share of my day today was setting up a new iPhone. So it's not that hectic.
Perfect. All right. So you watch a trailer like that. I love trailers. Big fan of trailers. Always have been. I would love to see movies just made or like the trailer is the movie. I think that would be an awesome channel to have, a streaming channel. Just trailers.
I think there's
movies we'll never see.
I think there should be fully an Oscar category for just trailers. Just because, I mean, there's no excuse to have a bad trailer anymore, because if you just throw on some like very manipulative pop song, it should be great. Like your movie can be trash, but you should still be able to make a good trailer.
It is an art form. But when you watch that trailer, how do you feel? Seeing the movie last night, I have goosebumps because I know the movie. I'm not as closely connected as you are, obviously. But do you still enjoy watching the trailers?
Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised and happy that it was not something I had to make, because as you've seen it, so you know the twists and turns of it. So earlier when I was in just the nascent days of cutting the movie, talking with my first editor about like, how would you market this? So I think they did a great job. Sony, when we sold it to Sony, they took care of all of the marketing stuff. So I was very pleasantly surprised that they kind of came back and like it gave. I think it's a fair kind of tone poem about what the movie is. It's like a little bit funny, a lot of feelings. There's some music and like hints at the intrigue and like the kind of a little bit of a mystery. So I think they did a great job with it. I was really pleasantly surprised. And we only did a minute trailer because apparently when you're not in the theater, nobody watches anything longer than that online. They're like, a minute. I don't know, who's got time? I have more Instagram to look at. I can't watch anything more than a minute.
Now, if you had your choice, if you could change the trailer, would you add Summer Love as the music for that trailer?
I mean, I would have loved to have a teaser that did that because.
Oh my God! I listened to it all day. It's on iTunes. The soundtrack is on iTunes, and that soundtrack is amazing. We'll talk about that later. But this song, one of the characters, Damon Wayans Jr., just blurts out a song. Anybody can write a song. Blue, blue, flippity. I got my flip flop, tippity top, and Summer Love, and then. I don't know. How much do you want to give away about this movie? Because there's so many twists and turns. Where are we with the spoiler situation right now?
I mean, I think the best way to see it, in what I've seen just from audience response and from critics, is just coming in fresh and without knowing anything is the best way to watch it. But the spoilers are everywhere. I mean, there's enough reviews now and there's enough people talking. So I think. Hopefully it'll garner more of an audience when it goes on demand in like a month, because I think a lot of people were just trickling. As you said, it was the first movie I'd seen in the theater in 13 months. So I think a lot of people were just like still like dipping their toes back in the water of normalcy. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I think it's a good ride regardless. But if you go in fresh, like I went to see it 2 weeks ago because when it opened, theaters weren't even open in LA. So I finally saw it for the first time in a theater 2 weeks ago. And when it got to one of the first twists, like two people in the audience were like, wait, what? Like audibly. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if they liked it, but it was surprising.
I was alone and I made lots of noises throughout the movie. All positive, but a lot of laughs. And I was surprised because looking at that trailer, I thought it was going to be a very romantic, not too much comedy, which is not the fact. There's so much comedy in this. I guess it almost takes every trope from every romantic comedy you've seen. And I'm not going to say rom-com because I don't think it fits in that category, but it's got heart, it's got comedy, it's got great music, like you said. And how do you not fall in love with Zoe?
Oh man, she's just the most charming. She's just such a little charm monster and just the most beguiling and so talented. She has just, her strike zone is enormous. She can just hit dingers from anywhere. I mean, as soon as the first day that she was on set with Finn, and Finn is also Finn Whitrock is also just a Juilliard trained classical actor. Just brings such depth to everything. But the first day they were on set together, I was like, holy shit, I think we might have a movie. So
yeah. And I fell for him too. I mean, I've only seen Finn, and I knew he exists obviously on other planes, but I've only seen him in the American Horror Story and Ratched shows where he plays an absolute psycho.
He's always a great
So my thought was, did Steve watch those shows and think romantic comedy? This guy needs to be in a romantic comedy.
No, because I am a big old scaredy cat, and I don't like the scary stuff. I don't do it. So I was not familiar with like the things that he's been like nominated for Emmys for. I knew like him from Big Short and like Beale Street and A Stupid and Futile Gesture, of which, those are, he's great in those, but they're smaller roles. So
Tim Matheson, how cool is that? How cool is it to play anybody from that era? He got to play Tim Matheson.
Yeah. I mean, a guy I used to work with, actor named Joel McHale, got to play Chevy Chase in that, and I think he must have just loved it because they weren't the biggest fans on that show. They were not the biggest. They were more frenemies, so I think he must have enjoyed getting to play somebody who made his life difficult for some time.
I want to go back and explain to everybody what the movie is, the gist, because I don't want to give too much away, because it was exciting seeing that for the first time, thinking what I thought was going to happen, and then boom, another twist, and then that Easter egg at the way end. We won't get into that, but that's so much fun as well. One of the biggest laughs in the movie gets a great Easter egg at the end. Anyway, you have these two lonely people who cross paths, and I loved how fast this happened. I mean, the movie's called Long Weekend, so there's not a long timeline involved, whereas some movies, they get together, they don't like each other, they fight, they fall in love, and a year later, they break up, and then a year later they meet again, and happily ever after. This was so quick, and these two people, they meet each other, and you start to wonder, well, is she real? Is she sick? Is she this or that? Because there's always going to be some conflict, and that was the conflict in the movie. And that's really all I want to talk about, other than the fact it was so damn charming.
Yeah, man. I mean, I thank you. I appreciate that. I think I think some people are going to get on board. You're either going to get on board with a twist or you're not. And I think mostly it seems like audiences it's really resonating. And I think it's such a weird time to launch a movie because, we're still just kind of trickling back to normal life. But I also think it's kind of fortuitously, kismetically a great time because, initially the Finn character was like, the Bart character was like a conduit for me after having gone through all this like tumultuous stuff in my life. But now we are all that character. We've all like been like, Jesus Christ, when is this going to end? And like, can I just get like a win? Just give me one win. Just give me something like good and small to celebrate. Give me like a small vacation, which is, in large part why it's called Long Weekend.
And I like that we knew Finn had his issues, but it wasn't played on too much. He wasn't depressing through the whole movie. You actually saw after the fact where he's coming out of this and he's just in love with this girl, this new, and I think we've all been there too, where we've had a weekend with somebody that we hardly knew. You never want to leave their sight. It's a wonderful weekend, and then real life sets in. But I think we've all been there where we're just drunk on love at first sight. And these two characters really, really brought that home.
No, they're such facile actors, and if this movie works at all, it's due in almost entirely in large part to them because you buy into their journey and you're in Finn's head the entire time. And if you're not going on the ride with him, then the movie doesn't work. You have to be like his perspective of like questioning things and also taking these illogical jumps and less like saying yes to a chance encounter. So Yeah, they really just delivered. So I feel very grateful to have had them in this project.
They made me think. I'm married. I've been married for 17 years, but they made me think if I was single, what would I do in this situation? Especially when he thought she was crazy, and you don't know which way he's going to go. I mean, there's a couple points where he's like, I don't know if I can deal with this.
Yeah.
So you have it in your head. What if she is mentally ill? What do you do? And on the spot, I thought I'd stay with her. I'd help her. I'd get her help. I'm in love with this girl. Why would I leave her in her moment of need?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, because we all want to believe. We all want to believe in hope and magic and love, right? Like when you find that little thing, you're just like, all right, I'll do whatever, because it's so rare and fleeting. I mean, like we all there's so many people out there that are great that you can meet up with and have a nice time and, you know, do some smooching, and that's cool. But when you meet somebody who's like really like, oh my God, this is like oxygen. This is so exciting. I feel like that's so rare that you just want to cling on to that for all your life.
A lot of their scenes were what seemed improvised. Was there a lot of improvising? You were the writer and the director on this, so a lot of pen to paper on your part. But when they were playing in bed, being the different animals, did you just set the camera on them, let them kind of go at it?
No, that's all written. But, you know, all that stuff was written. But, you know, about having the autonomy of being the writer and the director is like, this was not, you know, a Sorkin movie. It was not, I'm not making music here. It's not Gershwin. So I was like, you know, this movie only works if it feels as real as possible and as organic as possible. So if these words don't work for you, you say them the way you want to. But like all that stuff, like, you know, kissing like a bear or a snake, that was on the page. But like the way that they bring it to life, is so much more intoxicating than anything that was on the page. And, you know, like the things where I let people riff more were like the people who have such intrinsic, you know, comedic background, like the Jim Rash, like the button to that scene where he says, I'm a big fan of game nights. If you ever host one, like that was just something he just threw in there. That's cool.
I wrote that down. That is one of the funniest lines I have ever heard in a movie, because you think he's going to say, well, I throw game nights all the time. Love to have you come over. But no, I'm a fan of game nights in case you have one. Genius.
I mean, that scene kind of killed me because it was so funny in the initial cut, but a lot of the, you know, making anything, you just have to kill so many babies. And a lot of it was getting to the reveal faster. And that scene, while very funny, was just, it was one of the easiest places to take trims, but there was so many amazing jokes in there that you know, coming from a comedic background, that's the hardest thing for me to do, to cut jokes and leave money on the table in that regard. But yeah, he was amazing. And then Damon and Casey in that scene as well, the scene where they're, you know, in the kitchen and talking, he's telling all about the night they had. That scene was also twice as long because they had just so many great riffs. You know, some were based on things I'd written, and some things were just like them just going off the cuff because, you know, they have such a shorthand after working together for like 4 years. So that was the stuff that there was more riffing and improvising on, and like those kind of free beat kind of comedy scenes. But by and large, it was all written, but it was just like, you make it yours. I don't care about the exact language. There's certain things we need to hit because of plot points. And I think it's just kind of certain jokes, like they're better if you just say it this way. But mostly it was, you know, this only works if it's collaborative, I think. And it only works if you're as invested as the characters are. So however we do that, please make me look better. I would love that. Please make me look smarter than I am, which is not hard.
And how about Wayans? I mean, I don't think we've ever seen him as deep. I mean, he's very funny in this movie, but we really got to see him work his acting chops. Yeah,
man. I mean, that's the thing I kept on trying to just tell people. And he's been very busy. He's been touring already somehow. But I just wanted people to be like, watch. I like the movie. The movie's great. But watch Damon, because you've never seen him do this shit before. And he acts his face off. I mean, he's always like, you know, one of the funniest people, if not the funniest person in any project he's in. And he is that in this, but he's also like brings such subtle depth to the role. And that's a thing I'm kind of proud of. There's a couple of reviews and a couple, you know, people who've said as much on Letterboxd or whatever, saying that like one thing they really responded to is like seeing a vulnerable male friendship, because that's a thing we rarely get to see.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of problems with the toxic masculinity and in large, you know, there's shootings every other week. So it's nice to see like, just like people like, I mean, those are my friendships. Like,
Sure. Same here.
Yeah. And they're like, you know, I am an only child. So most of my male friends, they are brothers to me. So, and I think they really played off well with each other, like being, you know, doing that thing that all best friends do, that you give each other shit and you make fun of each other, but it's also like there's such love behind it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your relationship with some of these actors, because
Sure.
you go back behind the scenes. And no word of a lie, I knew you made this movie, and then I looked you up and I'm like, oh my God, Goldbergs, Happy Endings, Community. I've never watched the Michael J. Fox show, but a fan of Michael J. Fox. But I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah.
Indebted.
Yeah.
Indebted. Which I had Adam Pally on this show. He's a sweetheart. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, it was great. I just connected to him on Twitter. It was very odd. Like I try to reach out to people who have that little message icon on Twitter, and none of them ever get back to me. But he did, and we had a fun conversation. Anyway, no word of a lie, these are some of my favorite shows. You didn't work on New Girl, did you? Do you have anything to do with New Girl?
No, I have a bunch of friends who worked on that, but I never worked there.
Because that's one of my other favorite shows.
Yeah, I worked on all the other shows that had terrible hours, but not New Girl.
But that's, I mean, you must have met Damon on Happy Endings, which I think had too short of a run. It was a fantastic show.
Yeah, it was great. It just suffered from being an inherently young show, and then they never. I mean, in the last season, I think they changed its time slot 3 times in the course of the season, and that's just no way to get traction. And it was also before, like, I think if it was still gone and like made it to getting to like Netflix or Hulu or something where people could find it on the regular, I think it would have you know, done much better. But it was a little bit ahead of its time, honestly. But I mean, that cast is just amazing. The entire cast is such gifted comedians. So that was fun.
So for fans, it was nice to see Casey and Damon back together again, because they were from that show. And Jim Rash, of course, from Community. You worked on Community.
Oscar winner Jim Rash,
He's amazing. He's an amazing writer and director. Who knew? Him and Nate Fallon, right? Fallon. Yeah. The two of them are writing partners. And it's the way back or the way back? How many ways in that?
Way back. The way back. Ben Affleck. I'm a booze bag basketball coach.
Which was a good movie.
It was not bad. It was the last movie I saw in theaters before the pandemic hit. So it was not a joyful one to go out on. No. It was so weird, Steve, going to the movie theater. There was nobody there, so I felt safe. But I felt like I was like in some kind of an apocalypse or a zombie apocalypse, and I found a theater to hide out in for a while. It was kind of run down. It was a little grimy. Yep. You know, the picture wasn't as crisp as I remember. But thank you for getting me out of the house and getting me to a theater. I mean, you know, as I said, it's definitely a weird time to have anything in the theater, but I'm so thrilled that, because I had never seen it on a big screen. I did like all the color correcting and the sound mixing on my iPhone mostly, because we had to do it all after the quarantine hit. And it was like in the nascent days where we were just like, everyone's like, we are staying home for everything. So, and I had seen it, you know, in screening rooms. My buddies who did all the visual effects for it, they have a office down the street. So I we had a couple screenings there to get, you know, notes and that kind of thing, which was very cool. But it's a nice screen, but it's not sitting in an AMC with like the Dolby sound. And it was, you know, as somebody who it was a latchkey kid and spent so much time in movies growing up, and still I, you know, in normal times see at least a movie a week, if not 2 or 3. So like, you know, after 13 months, that was the thing that broke the dam for me, was just a dream, just to see it also for the first time, because I've seen the movie 1,000 times, but to see it in that context and see it with only a small audience, but an audience of 10 people, strangers, and like getting to hear their responses was just so fun.
Well, a movie like this too, you would normally see just come right out on a streaming service. So it was nice that it made it to the theaters to begin with. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit weird, but I think it's cool. It's very cool that, you know, my dad in Pittsburgh, you know, rented out. I think he's seen it 4 times already. He's just, you know, the most proud papa ever. So he was thrilled about that. I heard you speaking in another interview about VHS tapes and growing up watching tons of movies. I think we must be around the same age. I wanted to ask you, do you remember what your first, because you had talked about how you'd go and you'd rent 2 for yourself and 1 for mom and dad. Do you remember what the first VHS movie you saw was and what your parents rented that night? Because I remember mine.
I don't remember my first VHS because it was just so ubiquitous. It was just all the time. So I don't remember the first thing we rented, but I know that I remember the first movie I saw in a theater. I was 2 and my parents took me to see Return of the Jedi. And they were like, he's probably not going to make it through this because he's 2 and it's crazy. So they like waited to the very last minute. So to try to avoid meltdown. So they didn't get there early. They got there like right as it was starting. So we were of course sitting in the very front row and like, this is not going to go great. And they were just amazed because I sat there like transfixed for like the 2 hours, just like, look at all these puppets and explosions and lasers. So I remember that, but I don't remember first video. I mean, I remember just really leaning in and renting. I think by the time I was 6, because it came out when I was 4, or maybe by the time I was 5, I had seen Back to the Future like 20 times easily. And 3 times in the theater. Like I kept on making my parents go back to see it. And then I just rented it as soon as it came out, I think like every other weekend. That
is one of my favorite trilogies of all time.
Yeah.
And now it's my son's who's 13. He keeps asking me if they're going to make another one. I'm like, I'm sorry. They're just not. They're not.
It's a bummer, but who knows?
Mine was Superman for me. And then my parents watched Chariots of Fire. And to this day, I still really have only that image of them running down the beach as the whole plot point to that movie in my head.
That's all. That's what everybody remembers from that movie.
Yeah. And then we had to rewind the movie to send it back, and we didn't shut it off and rewind it because we didn't know how. So we just hit rewind and watched the movie in reverse. And it took about a half hour.
It took about a half an hour and just destroyed the tapes.
Yeah. And then Return of the Jedi was my first date as a 10-year-old. So that I remember seeing that as well. I have a weird memory when it comes to entertainment.
I can remember almost every theater and who I've seen almost every movie with. It's a weird skill that means nothing, but it's in there.
Steve, I just want to thank you for coming on, spending some time with me. Long weekend is movie. Oh yeah. And a pleasure speaking to you. I love the movie. I think Finn's awesome, who's a Massachusetts native, by the way.
Yeah.
He's from Lenox, Mass. And Zoe was fantastic. All the supporting cast was great. And it was nice that they all connected to you in your professional and personal life, I'm sure. Can I ask you a few questions about the Goldbergs before we go?
For sure, man. Hit me.
Okay. So first I want to ask, because I think I know, and a lot of people always ask, what does a producer do? Because I think you started as a producer, then supervising producer, and now executive producer. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't worked there for the last season, last 2 seasons. I haven't been there for a year and a half because I stopped to work on this, and then I worked on my buddy Dan Levy, who did Indebted, who is the basis of the Doug character. I consulted on his show while I was making this. So I mean, it's a misnomer because in television is a writer's medium, whereas film is a director's medium. So it's just very militaristic. You start off as a staff writer when you're a young pup, and you just kind of work up the ranks. So as I started off on that show as a producer, it's just like every year you kind of grow in capacity. But all those are it just means a writer. But you take on so many other hats when you're doing that, because you'll be on set for your episode. You will help with the editing. You're just kind of overseeing everything. I mean, the showrunner is ultimately doing the lion's share of the work, but if they're good at allocating or delegating a workload, you'll do with your episode and other episodes, you can do any number of tasks. You'll be in there for the sound mix, and so that's what it means. I mean, they're just all writers, executive producers, unless they're, on the production side, if they're in the pod, they're all writers.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I thought it was behind the scenes. You do this, you do that, but you continued to write for them. We lost George Segal, which is just a devastating loss to entertainment in general, especially the way he went so quickly without knowing what was going to happen. Do you have? And you said you haven't been on the show for about a year and a half, but do you have any idea how they're going to handle that, or how they would handle somebody passing like George?
I don't know, because I think they were in the midst of shooting the finale when it happened, and I know from talking to friends of mine on the cast, they said it was very somber, but they were really grateful that they all got to be together when they were all together when they found out.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what they're going to do, because the writing was kind of already in the wall for the finale. So I think that was just some last minute rejiggering. And I have not talked to my friends who, the showrunners there. I think at this point, they're just waiting to see if they'll get another season. And I think they will, because
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, it's had a great run, but I always refer to the Goldbergs as like the diner of television, in that it's like, it's not sexy, it's not winning any awards, but when you get there, like, Jesus, I love Meatloaf. This is so cozy. This is so comforting. And that's what that show is. It's just like a warm hug that is really, with great actors and funny premises and a great story engine, and just like the nostalgia, just like it washes over you. So I think it'll continue going on. And I don't know how they'll handle it, but I think they're first and foremost got to get a pickup, and then they'll figure that out.
It's one of the few shows that we watch as a family, the four of us, every week, and we look forward to it. The kids love it. I mean, the kids are 10 and 13, and they can't stand when Dad opens his mouth and says, "Oh, well, that part right there. Hold on, pause.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they said that. That's from that commercial." And drives them nuts.
I just like the people who shout at each other. They're big and stupid, and they yell. That's fun.
Yeah.
Don't have to care
Moron.
about that.
Yeah. But you put your friend in Long Weekend for the guy that played the waiter, and I was racking my brain trying to figure out who that was, and he's got that face. I'm like, oh my God, that's from one of the funniest episodes of Goldbergs.
Yeah, he wrote that episode, and he was also in it. But he's old, like, improv royalty. Like, he came up with like Matt Walsh and Amy Poehler, and he used to be in a comedy team with Andy Daly. That's Andy Secunda, and he was a writer on Goldbergs for, I think, the entire time, and then he moved over to Schooled at some point, the spinoff. But yeah, he's great, and one of my best friends, and just like the sweetest and funniest dude. So it was nice to like, in every role, they were all friends. They're all friends from the past, and the woman who was walking the dog is one of our producers, Deanna Barilari. And even the woman at the end in the bank vault was a friend of mine who I've had been friendly with for years, who just had a line, but it was just nice to like just call a bunch of people to come in and just like help out. So it was great.
It's got to make making a movie that much easier, just to have all your friends with you, huh?
Yeah, it's like just nice to share in. It's nice to know that there's people that you trust around, and then it's just also like just fun. It's just like it's so rare that anything gets made, and when you get the opportunity, it's just like, it just feels like otherworldly, because it's like, this doesn't happen. This business is just like a million heartbreaks. Like,
right.
The amount of times, like, I had a friend of mine who called me yesterday because she had a pitch that was going out to different production companies, and one production company was like, love the writing, but this is not for us. And she was so bummed out about it, because it's the first thing she's ever done. I was like, dude, even in success, you're gonna have 1,000 people say no to you. You gotta. That's what it is.
Yeah.
This is like the 16th movie I've written, and I think about a third of them, a fourth, or close to a half, like, I've been paid for in some capacity, but none of them ever got made. This was the first one, and like, I've had so many pilots in development with a bunch of different people, and it just all is just goes into this purgatory. So like, the time when there's anything that's good that gets to be made, it just feels so magical. So it's nice to like just surround yourself with people that you love, because it's a fun experience.
Well, I can't wait to share that with my 24-year-old in California right now, because he's out there trying to do what you do, and he's been working on one script for a long time. I'm like, keep it going, more scripts, more short films.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you just got to get it out there.
That's the best advice. I always like, everybody, I think when you're younger, you like, I wrote the thing. Do I get
now? I'm going to shop it around. Yeah,
that's me, maybe. But there's like 1% of people who their first swing out the bat, like, that's the thing that gets them a job or gets them notoriety. The first thing is usually bad, and then you work on the next thing and the next thing, and you keep on learning. So have them finish that, and then do more stuff, and then he'll get better and better and better.
Well, hey, Steve, thank you so much. Long Weekend is the movie, and I really do, not to, I'm not, blowing smoke up your ass or kissing ass, but it's an important movie, I think. I think movies like yours are very important. I love the big budget stuff. I do. The last movie I saw in the theater was The Rise of Skywalker, so I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I am a huge fan of these indie movies that really make you think. So thank you for putting out this movie. And you said it's streaming soon, right?
Well, it'll be on demand in May,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
so in about a month, and then streaming. I don't know what the timeline is for that, but I assume a month or two after that. So
Fantastic.
Stay tuned. If you don't feel like going to the theater, just wait, and you can buy it in like early or mid-May, and then you can rent it a week after that, and then eventually, once they feel like they've squeezed all the juice out of the studio, they'll put it up on some streamer, and then please tell all your friends. Give me some solid Rotten Tomatoes. I would love you forever.
And then get some VHS copies made. I think that's
I think that's the next thing.
All right, Steve, thank you so much.
Ray, it was such a pleasure, man. Thank you for reaching out.
All right, take care.
All right, take care, buddy.